Welcome sports fans to GenX Classic Sports, where we bring the nostalgia of our sports-filled youth into the present day. Grab your favorite retro jersey, crack open a cold one, and let's stroll down memory lane together.
Hello everybody and welcome back. This will be episode 18, which is the continuation and part 2 of our last podcast episode, which was about vintage video games, sports-related video games, especially back in the 70s, 80s, and the early 90s when we were playing them. And if you enjoy what we're doing here, I just want to ask you to please subscribe, please press like on whatever service you're using, and we'd appreciate it very much. And as always, thank you for listening. So let's pick back up with vintage sports video games. So once again, Sears, being on top of the world back then, they branded the Intellivision also. So you might see an Intellivision floating around with Sears stamped on it. Didn't know that until I looked this up. And yeah, Mattel, they were a huge company at that time. And it's funny that 20% of the market sold that much stuff. That tells you how much stuff Atari was selling, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have images of most of this, thank goodness, that I can put on the YouTube, and you can just see how far graphics have come over the years as the technology got better. So and then that really gets you, David, you were talking about playing this in high school. That really gets you up to when the Nintendo, the old NES, actually came out. It came out in 85, but I know for a fact we didn't get ours until 88. The NES. I know you had one. Do you remember when you got it, basically?
Oh no. Oh wow. No.
I mean,
Probably about 86.
well, the only reason I remember when we got ours is because somebody on this call, I won't name who, found ours in the trunk of the car and got it out and had won the game that came with it before he even unwrapped it for Christmas.
Played it a lot. Ain't gonna lie.
Mom worked nights, so she'd come in. It was hid in the trunk of the car. Casey'd go out there on Christmas break. We were home all day. He'd get it out of the trunk of the car while she was sleeping, play it for hours, put it back in the trunk of the car.
Box.
And it came with the Super Mario Brothers, which he had already won before he opened it on Christmas. He didn't even mess around with Duck Hunt, man. He went straight for Mario Brothers.
Oh man, I'm terrible.
That's awesome.
Because I was a senior in high school and he was in 7th grade, and I was like, dude, you better act surprised when you open that thing, is all I can say. You better act like this is the greatest gift ever. He's done worn it out, man, in the week leading up to Christmas. So it came out in one version that was, you stuck the cartridge straight in the top, and that's actually really, from my understanding, it's actually highly sought after by the collectors because it was more stable to just, like a Atari, to just stick the cartridge in and leave it. That thing that we all bought came out in 86, where you stuck the cartridge in a tray and dropped it down. And they switched to that design because VCRs were so popular, and they thought people would associate the thing with a VCR and even be more excited about it. What they didn't realize was sliding it in and then sliding it down actually made the electronics less stable inside of there. And so you had a whole generation of people who eventually the plug-in didn't connect properly and the games would start fritzing out on it. And so you had a whole generation that had to buy a part to put back in there and replace to make it work.
Like the springs going out, and it wouldn't pop up like it was supposed to. And I said you'd have the trays would break and they wouldn't pop up like they were supposed to.
Yes, and so but all of that connection would get messed up, and so your games wouldn't save right, they wouldn't start up right, and so forth. So, all right. So David got it, we got it, or about the same time, whatever. So we had it at two houses, and David's parents were always nice enough to let all of us neighborhood youngins gather at their house and stay up late. So Nintendo had their own version of baseball, which was terrible. So we ended up finding a better baseball game I'll talk about later. But at the same time, according to the notes, two different football games came out on Nintendo, basically the same year. Well, they were 1 year apart. So we got our system in '88, and then in '89, Tecmo Bowl came out and changed everything for us. That's why I wish Mark was on here. We'll have to follow up with him at some point about Tecmo Bowl. So we started congregating and playing Tecmo Bowl late into the night after we played basketball or wiffle ball or whatever. And Tecmo Bowl, of course, it scrolled left to right, much better graphics, much better sound. Had the cut scenes where they would show a full sized image celebrating a touchdown or whatever. It kind of talked to you, it kind of did the downset hut thing and all that. And how many times did we play that against each other? There's no telling, right? What do you remember about those nights, David?
I lost a lot. That's mainly what I remember, and it was the game was rigged. No, it was fun. It was more about hanging out than the game, I guess. But yeah,
Well,
I do
sure.
remember. I never could figure out what the other guy was doing good enough. I guess not like Mark did that night with Chris.
Yeah. So, Casey, you were in high school. I was in or you were in junior high school. I was in early college, and these guys were later in college, more or less. That's kind of how the ages broke out. And ourselves and a couple other people, we played a lot. And Tecmo Bowl quickly, I would say, became one of our favorites, although we'll talk about some others that we played also. It sold 5 million units. It wasn't just our favorite, it was a lot of people's favorite. And it was the first one that used real NFL players. So um, I've joked about this on another podcast. Bo Jackson was a cheat code. He was voted the greatest video game athlete of all time in one of these on one of these websites because you couldn't tackle Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl.
No, it was unfair.
Yeah, we would argue. I will remember saying before you'd ever play, fine, I'll play you, but you're not getting the Raiders.
That would have to be the agreement with anybody just about.
Yeah.
Because whoever had Bo Jackson and the Raiders was normally going to be unstoppable. Even the Bears defense couldn't stop them.
Yeah, we were going to win.
Yeah. Casey, do you remember the arguments about what teams you had to get and everything, and you couldn't
Oh
have?
yeah, we we got an like a Nintendo and I did pick up Tecmo Bowl the other night. Me and the boys played here, and of course I think they knew, like because they watch YouTube and whatever, but they've never played it. And so we fired it up, and right off the bat, I was like, I'm getting the Raiders. And I just demolished my teenagers, and they were like, oh, the old man still got it. Like, yeah.
With you
Yeah,
playing
that's not really fair.
with you playing with Bo?
Bo, yeah.
Well,
But what's funny about that is and so I was like, okay, I'll pick another team. And so this was what'd you say, 89? I know,
89 when it came
89.
out.
And I'm sitting there looking at some of the other teams, and I'm trying to figure out, well, who was really playing on that team at that time, And I was trying to think of who would be a good one to get.
Well, you had the Cowboys had Herschel Walker still. He was hard to
Yeah,
tackle. The Bears had Peyton and Willie. Was it Willie Galt for a receiver? Denver had Elway. I can't remember who. Some of those teams were just awful on there, but
yeah.
San Francisco had
San Francisco's good.
Steve Young
And,
or Montana, whoever it was,
and Rice,
and
Jerry
Rice
Rice.
and Roger Craig too.
Yeah,
The Bears defense had Mike Singletary. Remember their defense wasn't that supposed to be the best defense on there?
That and the Giants, because some people think that they programmed Singletary and Lawrence Taylor to almost be as good as Bo
Oh,
Jackson on the defensive
that's
side, but
right.
most people never knew that. And if you were out of position, it wouldn't matter. Bo was going to score, even if
yeah,
you had Lawrence Taylor or Singletary. What's funny about that one to me is you had to pick. The only way to really stop somebody was you had to pick the exact play. And if you couldn't pick the exact play, you had to at least pick whether they were running or throwing.
Running.
So
Yeah.
if you're playing the Niners, and they were the only team that had the shotgun from what I remember, maybe Denver did. If you're going to play the Niners and you picked run defense and they got in shotgun, they were going to score. You
Yeah.
were screwed. You had to hope somebody could catch them. But it was stuff like that that's what it's made it fun, and you ended up trying to outguess the other guy. And so what David alluded to earlier, at this point, Mark was living on his own across town. Remember, he was living over on the Arkansas side in a mobile
Right.
home. So Mark was hosting games by then, and I went over there one night. I don't know if y'all were there or not, but I know I was there. And Mark and Chris had been cussing at each other for probably already a couple of hours by then, and they wanted to play one more time or whatever. Because, we call them Tecmo tournaments. We'd be like, hey, we're going to do a tournament tonight, It's like playing basketball. The loser has to sit out. The winners get to keep playing. And Chris, I don't know who had who. One of them had San Francisco, and Mark picked like the first 6 plays that Chris called it. He picked them so perfectly that it was 3 plays and punt, then 3 plays and punt again. So 8 plays in a row, Chris got nothing but 2 punts out of it, and he was livid. He was slinging stuff around and everything. Mark would play just lying there on the floor on his stomach. He could play on his stomach, and he was just laughing and rolling around and everything. Man, everybody gets so mad when we played that. That's what I remember is how mad we would get. So yeah, so that was big enough. But to me, even though Tecmo was that fun, what really changed it was the one that came out in 90, which was NES Play Action Football. And that's the one I sent y'all two screenshots of. It scrolled kind of at an angle, but mostly
Right.
horizontally. It had 11 players. The graphics were still not great, but they were better than anything other than Tecmo Bowl we would ever seen. And the key to that one for us, and maybe for everybody, was that you could buy what they called the satellite controller and plug 2 more joysticks in and play 2 versus 2. Game
Yep.
changer for us.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
we always had 4 dudes around, it seems like. And you just take what you had just done in wiffle ball or what you just done night hooping, and just carry it into the house. two
Yep.
2-on-2. So for those of you thinking, what is that game? It's a little more on the obscure side once Tecmo came out, but it was Nintendo's own football. They had come out with a product you could plug those joysticks in and play 2-on-2, and it was the only sports game I think at the time they had that would use that. And so they included cards, little laminated cards in the instructions that you could show them to your buddy. So you'd sit 2 together and 2 together. You'd hide the card from the opposing team and show your buddy what play y'all were about to run. And then the cool thing about that was you could switch off players and block for each other. Do y'all remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So if you were the QB, you could throw the pass down the field, and then you could switch off to the nearest receiver and become a blocker for your buddy.
Yes.
Game changer for us.
Now, wasn't that the game that you could run the option on that we always try to run?
Yes, yes. Yeah, so you'd run the option, you'd pitch it, and then you'd switch over as quick as you could and become either like the tight end or a wide receiver to block downfield for your running back. It was awesome, and it was slow. It didn't move as fast as anybody'd be used to now. But the fact that you could do it in teams, man, that was everything to us.
Best I remember, it was slow even for us then. Because I think we were like trying to, hurting our thumb trying to move the runners faster, and it was just they just moved. Everybody moved so slow in that game.
Yeah, we had some battles with that. I mean, some absolute battles. Chris, Matt, Mark, us. I mean, like it's so funny how it's the same thing no matter what we did. If you lost, you had to sit a while, and boy, you didn't want to do that. You get mad about that. And then you'd sit there and think the guy I'm playing with didn't do his part that time or whatever, and then you're like, dang, he missed a tackle, man. It cost us.
looking at this screenshot, it looks like there's 11 players on the field too,
There are, yeah.
and that was a big deal
Yeah, it's
back
11
then
on each side. Yeah.
because of the technology. You're kind of limited, so that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and the screen would have to kind of scroll and keep up with the action, and it was the first one that was kind of able to do that without it being a problem and all. But it was slow. The game, the action. I can remember Chris running long ones, and he'd get to giggling while he was running, hoping nobody would catch him. You know, it'd be such a pressure cooker for him to be running down the sideline, hoping nobody was going to catch up with him and stuff. He'd just start laughing,
They, I was
nervous.
just thinking if the guy busted it out of this picture you sent, they're on the 30. So they have 70 yards to go. It would take probably 10 minutes for a guy to run that 70 yards. It seemed like it was so slow.
That's the only game. That's the only one I remember playing with 4 people. That would have
It's
been
the only one we did.
yeah. It looks like that would have been a bigger deal. I don't know what else they could have incorporated that with, but that's the only one I
Yeah.
remember playing.
I think it was their first sports game that used the 4-play satellite, and I don't know why they didn't come out with more. Maybe they did, none that we played, but that to me that it's just such a big deal when more than 2 people can be involved in what's going on and can sit there. And we would sit there, man, until the wee hours. Thank God David's
Oh, yeah.
parents were cool about it because we'd be
Yeah.
there till late.
Yep.
A lot of late nights doing that.
Well, because by then we were older. I mean,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
we were older people by then, older kids, and y'all were about to be done with college. I was in college. Casey was in high school, so we were older kids. You could be doing a lot worse than what we were doing till 2 o'clock in the morning playing those video
That's
games for sure.
that's true.
Well, we did that too.
What are you laughing about?
I said we did that too.
Oh,
Worse.
that must have been on Fridays. This was Saturdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know who owned what. I'm assuming somebody had to roll up 2 controllers and haul them over to David's. You didn't have 4 controllers, did you? Did we bring
I
2?
don't think so. I think you would bring 2 more over, I think. I don't think I
Who
had 4.
who had the 4-play splitter
I
thing?
think I had it.
Okay,
Must have, because I don't remember us having
I
one.
don't either.
I think I bought it or got it or something because I knew we'd be gathering up at the house, and I think just had you bring 2 controllers over.
Yeah, I think Chris would show up with his own controller too.
Maybe so. Chris probably had it
Um,
before anybody.
yeah, that honestly, if you added it all up, I would bet anything we played Tecmo Bowl and then this game more than anything else we played because it just caused so much fun to compete with each other doing that. It's so
See, I don't
funny.
remember playing Tecmo Bowl at my house that much. I remember playing it over at Mark's place over there on the Arkansas side, playing at Tecmo Bowl over there. I just
Yeah.
remember playing this play action at my place all the time. Seemed like.
Yeah, and honestly, as I look at this time frame, sadly, that kind of was the end for us. We really, we'll talk about the Madden stuff just for a second, but we didn't really, that Madden wasn't around when we were doing all of this. Our run
No.
with it kind of ended probably 93, 94, somewhere in there after we'd been playing those for 3 or 4 years. Madden didn't come out, it came out in 90. It was on the Sega Genesis, which
Right.
we had, and I put a screenshot in here for y'all to see. Madden scrolled vertically too. The first Madden game scrolled
Yeah.
up and down.
Let's not forget about Nintendo Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I didn't mean to
Okay.
screw up things by jumping to Sega, but
I remember at Dave's house in between games, if there was an extra person or whatever, Mr. Kaufman had the Commodore computer,
yeah,
and somebody would be over in the
Yep.
corner playing golf or something, waiting to play football.
I
Right.
tried to find that game there was a game on there that I loved, and David and I played it a lot, but it wasn't an actual game. It was a simulation game for NFL. You had a team's playbook and it set the game up, and then all you did was call plays and watch the action happen by the computer. Do you remember that, David?
Yes. Yes.
So it was a strategy game. You didn't juke people and throw the ball and catch it. You called the plays and the computer decided whether that was a good play or not. And we played that thing for hours, and that was usually the one that I was over there playing if I wasn't playing the Nintendo, I love that game, man. I tried to find it, have no idea what it's called, and
Oh,
I'm
I
gonna
don't know either.
yeah. So back to instead of Sega and all that, back to where we actually ended up. So couldn't just play football on there all the time. So on page 3 of y'all's things, I put a couple of more, and then there was a fourth on page 4, or a third on page 4 there. So somebody had Jordan versus Bird. I don't know who. I know
That
we
was on
did.
that little. It was on that little computer
Yeah,
Yeah,
that you're
yeah,
talking about. We
yep,
played that a lot over there.
yep. And then Casey and I ended up with that on Nintendo
Nintendo.
also.
Yep.
And then I know y'all remember the hoops game that I put the picture of on there. We played that too. That was the street ball game, 1v1 street ball.
I did pick that up the
Ooh,
other day too. We've been playing
Do you
it.
remember that, David?
It's fun.
I don't know if I remember that one or not.
I promise you played it with
2 on
us.
I
2.
don't remember it by this graphic you sent. I'm sure I played it. Yes, yes.
It had a little short, fat guy that could dunk. It had a girl on there. It had a tall, skinny dude that dunked. It had a little bit of everything, and you had to learn what they were good at because, like, one dude couldn't shoot, one dude couldn't dribble. It was street ball, and it played different than other games, but we did play a lot. And then you said Nintendo baseball, and maybe we did play that, but I remember Baseball Stars the most.
That was what that
On
was on Nintendo.
Yeah, yeah. When you said Nintendo, I thought you meant their branded
No,
game,
but
not
baseball Nintendo. No, baseball stars was the best.
yeah. If it wasn't Tecmo or the football game, it had to be Baseball Stars that we played the most. My goodness, man, that game was so fun.
But remember they come out with RBI baseball around that time or before that, and that had the major league players, and it had the Cardinals. You know, the Cardinals were good at that time. It had Vince Coleman and Willie McGee. It had all that speed. And I remember
Yep.
Vince Coleman ever hit it to the left side of the infield, you weren't throwing him out, and you weren't going. He was going to steal the base. You weren't going to throw him out. He was like the Bo Jackson of RBI baseball as far as getting on. And the third baseman didn't have strong enough arm to throw hardly anybody out, much less Vince Coleman, because he was like Superman fast on that game. I remember that. I didn't like it because your pitcher only lasts like 2 innings.
Well, because you throw fastballs and he get tired.
Right,
Yeah, Baseball Stars was the one that didn't have any licensing, so it had the guy named Pete that you knew was Pete Rose, but that's all they could call him, and so he was a slap hitter who got on base all the time. And remember, Baseball Stars was the first one we played where you could actually turn decent double plays and stuff.
right. Wasn't that the game you could build your own team?
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
so. Yeah,
And
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 it
and,
had a
and
way of yeah, it remembered a franchise and all that.
you could build your players up
Yeah,
somehow.
we played that a lot.
Yes,
It had the first gameplay that we had where a guy could lay out at third or on the infield, could lay out, catch a grounder, stand up and throw a dude out at first. That was the first game we
right.
played that really allowed that.
Yeah,
So you can
that was
see
the
on the
best.
graphics that baseball's yes. Yeah, nothing like killing a rally by turning a double play off a sliding play by your shortstop, and
Yep.
I do remember the outfield. You remember the outfield play was hard. You had to watch like the shadow of the ball and kind of line up with it, or else the ball would sail right over your head. It was kind of hard catching
Yeah.
fly balls on that game.
Yeah, it was.
But it had Babe Ruth. It just called him Babe, and it had Pete Rose and just called him Pete, and stuff such as that, so that they didn't get in any legal trouble. But you knew who you were playing when you did that. But yeah, we played it a million times too. We really did play Baseball Star, and then I do remember RBI with the speed from the Cardinals and all that for sure. And what's weird about it is that only gets us up to about 93 or 94, and all of us old dudes, man, we were pretty much done with it at that point.
Yeah.
we, we kind of outgrew the whole concept in a way. Now in college, I remember we did have Casey and I had a Sega Genesis, and somebody in college
PlayStation.
did. And I remember playing a Joe Montana football in college, and it
I was
scrolled.
gonna bring that up. Yeah.
It scrolled vertically too, but it was much better graphics and everything, and it was fun.
Have you seen the Madden documentary, David?
I don't think I have.
about the game. There's a really good documentary on it. Maybe I don't know if it's Prime or Netflix, one of those.
I remember I've seen where it was advertised. I haven't watched it.
It's pretty good. I like all the technical side of it, but it's pretty interesting, the evolution of that through the years. The thing I like after talking about all this and playing recently on the Nintendo with my kids, which, like you said, I know y'all kind of got out of it, and I did too. Not long after this, I played the PlayStation a little bit, but just the simplicity, man, of these
Yeah.
controllers and the buttons, and not having done that for what, however many 30 years now or whatever, really, the Nintendo, and picking that controller up and playing with my kids, man, and all that kind of coming back. Oh man, that's been pretty fun. I ain't gonna lie. Pro wrestling, baby, coming off the top rope.
Yeah, there was a wrestling game Casey and I had that was fun. It wasn't real wrestlers; it was fictional guys, but it was fun too. And yeah, I mean, we had stuff to the side that we played for sure, but mostly it was these games we just talked about. We all had our turn at Mike Tyson, and this was before the internet when you knew what the good cheat codes were. So we all got knocked out by probably two or three guys short of getting to Tyson most of the time. We all took our turns getting knocked out by some dude on there we couldn't beat or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd get so mad fighting Tyson and getting knocked out. I hated that so bad. I will say this as far as us getting old though, David and I actually did do something else. When PlayStation 2 came out, David had internet. This was early days of the internet. It wasn't great internet, but we both had internet and we played PlayStation 2 PGA golf, him in El Dorado, me in Little Rock. And we created our own characters. That the more you played, the more you could buy shorts and golf
Yeah,
shoes and a better glove and better clubs. And we had our characters created and everything. And we would play, I'm sure with a lot of technological interruptions, but we would play better than you would believe in the late 90s or whatever. We could play that game against maybe the early 2000s, and
Yeah.
we could play 18 holes late at night. When the internet wasn't being used for anything else, we could play 18 holes against each other or with each other.
Yeah, we had our own little headsets. We could talk to each other. Yeah.
All had the headsets on. You could talk to each other and create a character and get out there and play. That was pretty fun.
yeah.
That was pretty fun.
I remember we played St.
But
Andrews
yeah,
one
I mean,
night.
I don't. Yeah, played St. Andrews. Yeah, and so by then I think Dylan was coming along and all that, and
Oh, your wife made
uh,
fun of us for sure.
oh yeah, she said we were dorks.
Yeah.
And the technology's so much better. Dylan was telling me that I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's another PGA game going to hit PlayStation 5, a new one. And I don't know if it's a Tiger Woods game or what, but he was telling me it's probably going to be pretty cool. So, um, but yeah, Casey, I can hang with Dylan. We can play Tecmo Bowl, and I don't feel so bad. I tried to play, I don't know how many times, Madden
Oh yeah,
with him on PlayStation or Xbox, and he just absolutely destroys me, and I hate it, man.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
not fun,
No, it's not.
It's not realistic. I always hated it when it's 4th and 30 and you could throw a out route and turn it up the field and get a first down. That's not real. That's not football. I know. Get off my lawn,
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Turn your music
Oh
down.
man.
I know, but still, you didn't see any of that crap happening in the NES. What was it? NES play action football. You didn't
Play
see
action.
any of that.
No,
Yeah.
no, you did not.
4th and long in your own territory. You're punting that ball, buddy. Oh, by the way, speaking of those games, I don't know who. I want to say it was Mark. I could be wrong, but I remember a tense night, very tense, a lot of anger of playing Tecmo over at his house, and somebody nails like a 60-yard field goal to beat somebody, or 50. It's probably 50 back in those days. But somebody nails like a crazy long field goal for that game and beat somebody at the buzzer, and that causing a commotion, stuff getting thrown and everything. Because you don't, I mean, you just that doesn't happen. But yeah, so
Yeah, that
we
was
definitely had some fun with all of that.
Yep.
no doubt.
Um, and then the precursor to this, besides the handheld games and air hockey, the other precursor was that magnetic football that buzzed. You set the players on the thing, and
Yeah.
we had that. I
Yeah.
spent hours with that thing. That's so lame now, but back then you didn't have anything else.
Oh yeah, it was great at the time in the
Yeah,
late '70s. It seemed like.
yeah. And then I know one reason the video gaming slowed down. It wasn't just because we all scattered, because we were all still around. We picked up pool at some point, and we would go from playing basketball at night into the pool hall and in the shop and shoot pool instead of playing video games. So that allowed us to play our music and talk more grown up smack to each other and so forth. So that was fun too. We spent a lot of years doing that until the wee hours.
Well, video gaming also started impeding into work life. You stay up all night playing video games. Hard to get up and go to work the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on our ages and stuff, I probably had to get up and go
Yeah.
haul hay or something the next day, and
Yeah.
wouldn't
And
enjoy that
whatever
at
you had to get
all.
up and
Yeah.
do, yeah, he wouldn't. Yeah.
Well, you were working like split shifts for the phone company.
Yeah. At one time I was. Yeah. Once the consoles started getting expensive, of course they're really expensive now, but
Yeah, you think back then a game costing $40, that's a lot of money back then, man.
yeah.
A
You
lot
know,
of
the
money.
Sega was like over 100 or something for the console, I think. So that
Oh
was
yeah. I will brag
now.
on I will brag on my brother a little bit and say that one time David, you didn't work there anymore, I don't think, but Greg worked at Kmart, and they had a video game tournament.
I remember
And
that.
Kate, we didn't even own the game. Was it
It was
Tecmo?
Tecmo Bowl, yeah.
We didn't own it at the time. We later did. Casey went up there, got second place in
Second
the Tecmo
place.
tournament
Yeah.
just from playing
I remember,
against each us because we didn't even own the
Playing at
game.
Dave's house. Yeah, I didn't even have
I
it.
remember happening. I remember that happening. Yeah.
That's how much we played it.
We played it a lot. And I'm sure it was true that when you picked it back up recently. Yeah, I gave Grant, Casey's oldest kid, I gave him a console for Christmas that plays Super Nintendo or regular Nintendo games. So I was like, all right, y'all are on your own. Go find some games. And luckily enough, there's still places around that will sell the old games. And so Casey's been getting back into the swing of it with them. But the simplicity to just pop in the cartridge and play beats having to get online and make accounts and
Oh
and
yeah.
download things for hours and then play. Man, you just pop the game in and go. That's what old dudes like.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that was kind of our run with it. I mean, everybody else, of course, then, after we made it cool for everybody else then jumped on and started playing Madden, and continues to this day. But I guess like a lot of things, we did kind of outgrow it. It outpaced us at some point, but we definitely had our fun during the console days of the 80s and 90s for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of wasted
Um,
hours.
huh?
A lot of wasted time.
Yeah.
Not
I don't know if
wasted.
it was, I don't think it was
No,
wasted. It
not
was just
wasted.
not productive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Let's call it that.
Like you said, it could have been worse.
Could have
yeah.
been a lot worse. Anybody got anything else they want to add? That's kind of the old man run with sports video games. Anything else about any? I do want to add this quick story because I do think it's important. But David, I'll never forget your dad making chocolate chip cookies for us more than once. I was
Oh yeah.
lucky enough. I was lucky enough to be a part of that 2 or 3 different times, and it was awesome, man. David's dad would
I
catch us
thought
early
about
enough.
that a while ago.
Yeah, he would. God, what'd he do? Double the recipe or triple it or
Oh yeah.
something? And
Yeah.
he would
Yeah.
make chocolate chip cookies that were about the size of a quarter, and he would just he would say, "I'm gonna go to the store and get a couple of gallons of milk." And you think couple of gallons? Well, when he starts churning out them all those little chocolate chip cookies, man, and there's 4, 5, 6 dudes sitting around, he had to double or triple the recipe because
Yeah.
they were
And the
gone,
killing
man. They
thing
were
is he
gone.
would start like 9 o'clock, start
Oh
making
yeah.
Yeah,
them.
cook all night.
I hope you guys want to
Yeah.
dump a pound of sugar in your stomach at 1 o'clock in the morning because that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, he did that multiple. I'm not saying it was an every weekend thing, but I can easily say 2, 3, 4 times that happened, and
Oh yeah.
he'd just be in the mood that he wanted to do it, and he'd be like, "Hey, you guys, y'all eat some chocolate chip cookies, won't you?" And you're like, yeah."
And when everybody was out of school for holiday break, for Christmas break or whatever, it was definitely a time. He'd do it at least twice during that break. It seemed like.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, it was.
that's when this really ramped up. I can even remember everybody dating, and you take a girlfriend home or something, and it's midnight or whatever, and still get together and play for a couple hours.
Yeah.
But it really
Yep.
ramped up over Christmas break because everybody was back together and out of school and so forth, and we definitely put the hours in there. All right, if nobody has anything else to say, I'm going to kill the recording here, and we'll shoot the breeze for just a minute.
Thank you for joining us on GenX Classic Sports, where nostalgia meets the thrill of the game. Tune in next time for more insightful discussions and memorable moments, brought to you by Pine Street Productions. Until then, stay passionate about sports and keep the memories alive.